Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. We are live from our home studios, but that does not change a thing. We are live here with another episode of Off Field. I'm Liv Moods. Right to this side of me is Nate Jackson, and then on the far other side of me is the bestie I was hanging out with way too late last night, Mr. BK. How we feeling, fellas?
Better than the Nuggets 3-point shooting, that's for sure.
It's not hard to feel better than that because it was trash. It was garbage. We definitely want to start the top of the show talking a little bit about what happened with the Denver Broncos wide receiver, Josh Reynolds. Nate, take it away. Tell us what you know about the incident, and then we'll kind of break it down.
Well, so the story came out yesterday. It was broken by 9 News and Mike Kliss. An incident that happened late Thursday night, early Friday morning of last week. So you got to know that this was the game in New Orleans. So all his teammates are there in New Orleans playing a game, and Josh Reynolds, because he's on injured reserve, doesn't get to go, right? So he's staying home, and he went out with his friends or whatever. And you know, there's some stuff that's a little hazy in the story. There may have been an altercation at a prior location, could have been one at Shotgun Willie's, but they ended up at Shotgun Willie's, and there was a person there who was essentially like stalking Josh Reynolds and his friends, who showed up there, was sitting, you know, somewhere in Shotgun Willie's, not watching the entertainment, but watching Josh and his friends. Called some of his friends. A couple more vehicles showed up, and when Josh and his friends left, there was 3 vehicles that followed him and ended up opening fire on the vehicle. Josh Reynolds got hit, I think, in the arm and the back of the head.
Yeah.
They ended up exiting the vehicle and jumping over fences and running from the gunfire. I saw a picture of the vehicle. There's some bullet holes in the front windshield. Pulled over on the side of I-25 there, and it's just fucking scary. And for me, I saw the images of the vehicle with bullet holes in it, and it just conjured up the images of the limo on New Year's of 2007, where Darrell Williams was murdered, and it was a similar situation, targeted. You know, an athlete gets in a fight, guys decide to pull out a gun and shoot up the whole vehicle, indiscriminately emptying the clip and not caring who the fuck they kill. Darrell Williams did die. Thankfully, Josh Reynolds did not. But it was just a horrible sort of memory that it conjured up, because I played in a football game with Darrell Williams on the day that he was killed. And so later that day, he was gone. And Josh Reynolds is now dealing with the aftermath of being shot and shot at. And the rest of the team is now dealing with the reality of these assailants. You know, they caught 2 of them, but several of them are still out there. And so the community needs to come together to find these people. But as an athlete, I mean, these guys are getting briefed by law enforcement, telling them, don't go here, don't go here, don't go here. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't. Here are the phone numbers you need to call. And so that's the new reality of these Broncos right now, dealing with this. And you hate to have that happen to Josh Reynolds and his friends, but to the team as well. So this is a super sad, frustrating experience.
BK,
Yeah, you know, and I had just gotten to town 2 weeks prior to the tragic murder of Darrell Williams, but I covered Darren in college at Oklahoma State, he and Tatum Bell. And so those were the only 2 guys, you know, it was just coincidence that I happened to have a bit of a relationship with both when I got to town. And Tatum actually invited me to that same party that Darren was at that night, but to wake up on New Year's Day. And I certainly can't imagine what it was like for Nate and his teammates, but just trying to wrap our heads around it. And we went in, did an emergency radio show. I was working at 104.3 The Fan. I'd been literally in town 2 weeks, and it's trying to make sense of it and figure out the details and what went on. And so it's easy to have those flashbacks and to take you to I'm sure what was the hardest time for you as a player when you talk about off-field incidences. You know, guys get hurt all the time. Guys get sick. They lose family members, friends, whatever. But when you lose a teammate, especially the way Darrell was lost, it's obviously going to always sit with you. And, you know, you and I obviously do a lot with Nick Ferguson, and it means so much to Nick and so many of you guys that were close to Darrell. But it's also interesting or strange just as the details come out. But when you hear that a guy got shot in the arm, shot in the back of the head, or was struck in the arm, struck in the back of the head, and was on the practice field this week working on the side field because he's on injured reserve for hurting his hand a few weeks ago against the Raiders. It's weird to kind of go, oh, well, man, how crazy was this? And how lucky is he that not only was nothing more severe, the result of the shooting, but that he can be back on a football field. It's different than Ricky Pearsall's story, which is also, again, could have gone way differently and crazy, that he's now the healthiest of all the Niners wide receivers, despite being shot a couple times right before the season started. So it's scary. And then one other thing, too, your point, Nate, we know how small Denver can be. And Liv, you're from here. And anybody that's listening to us, whether you're from here, have lived here, or just don't understand, for as big of a city as this is with 3 million plus people, there's only a handful of places that you're going to go as a pro athlete, realistically. I'm not saying you can't find holes in the wall and this and that, but there's only a handful of higher end gentlemen's clubs that you might end up at. And I don't want to pretend like I haven't been to shotguns more times than I can count. And lots of athletes throughout the years. John Morant, that's where he had his incident. It's not in a bad town, nonetheless. It's where people go. And there aren't even really nightclubs like there used to be. But when there are, there's only a couple. So it's not that you can't lay low. Everyone can lay low. But if you're going to be out and about and you're a Broncos player or a Nuggets player, you're going to be spot a lot of times. I'm not saying that only people that are out and about and might, look like they have money, because we know pro athletes do. But it is often easy to spot pro athletes in this town. And so your point, Nate, about what the Broncos are telling them, what law enforcement saying them in terms of just looking over your shoulder and being smart until at least this incident is wrapped up, is hopefully rings true. And it'll be interesting to see what Sean Payton says about this when he talks to us here in about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I obviously was not close to the situation on New Year's. I wasn't able to have a huge emotional connection to that moment, despite, I mean, obviously as a human, I just know that it's horrible. But I have lived through a school shooting, and I know that this is becoming way too prevalent. Gun violence is something that it terrifies me every single day, based on something that I lived through my sophomore year of high school. And then it was still kind of like, this is so abnormal, but now it's like everywhere you go, there's gun violence, there's deaths, there's people just kind of abusing the ability to carry. So it's very scary. And I kind of feel like we're becoming numb to gun violence at this point, because it is something that happens way too often. And I do fear for these athletes, because like BK said, it's easy to spot one. It really is. The way that they carry themselves, the entourage that they have around them, especially in a place like Denver, where there's a lack of culture in so many ways. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Look, the demographics are what they are. We understand that.
Right. So it's not hard to spot, a nice fancy car and a group of people that are built a little bit taller and stronger. And what's scary is that these athletes it's going to get to the point where these athletes can't really live a normal life. I would love to know, Nate, from your perspective, is it pretty normal that a player that stays behind and is on IR is going out and doing things while his team is somewhere else? Or is there that unspoken rule of like, if you're not going to be with us, you should be at home? I'm not saying him going out is the reason for him being in the position he's in, but I do wonder, was there maybe a reaction from the coaches or from the Broncos that was like, well, why were you there while we were on a business trip? Is there any of that you think involved in this?
Absolutely not. I think that, when I was on the practice squad, we wouldn't travel. This was back when, they didn't take the practice squad players on the road. Right. And when the team would hit the road, we'd hit the town. And and we were definitely fucking staying out past midnight. I promise you that. Everyone's like, nothing good happens past midnight. Well, you're in your 20s. I mean, yes, you go out and you stay out past midnight. And even if you plan to just have a couple beers, you end up being out with the fellas, and you get excited, you get the momentum, and you end up being out late. Josh Reynolds without understanding the incident that led to this, Josh Reynolds doesn't deserve any blame for being out while his friends are out.
I just wanted to know the dynamic of. This
is the discussion that's happening, Liv. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm saying, like, it's very common, and he's got a thumb issue. That's why he's not playing. He's thumbed. It's not like he needs to be off his feet and
laying horizontal all weekend.
Right, like he's fine. And so I think that, for Josh Reynolds, and also You talk about being easy to spot. Like this was not a robbery. This was an attempted murder. They didn't try to steal anything from him. They wanted him dead. Why? I don't know. But I'll tell you this: the same thing happened with Brandon Marshall, and some happens with because Darren Williams got killed, but it was Brandon, and it was in a fight with some other folks, and it's like. These athletes are big, strong dudes. These guys who carry guns don't want to have fistfights with these guys because they're going to get hurt, right? And so Josh Reynolds is a big guy. He's a 6'4", 6'5" professional athlete. You don't want to throw hands with this guy. And so if you are someone who is looking for trouble and you're going to resort to different methods to resolve this, and to me, this is probably what happened. This was something that could have been resolved with a fist fight, and instead was resolved with gunfire. And athletes are targets, man. When the incident happened with Darren Williams, it was New Year's Eve. They getting into a club. There was a long line outside of the club. It was cold. There was snow on the ground. But guess who gets to jump the line? The Denver Broncos players, right? And so the guys who were waiting in line, who are the bad dudes, didn't like that. That was the first little encounter there. And they were chirping at each other. Then it goes into the club, and the Broncos guys have a table. The gangsters have a table close by. And the Broncos guys are getting more attention at the club, right? So there's more girls partying at their table, and they're more rowdy, and they're spraying champagne. Well, the gangsters didn't like that either. And then there was a fight outside when the club let out. That was kind of the culmination of all the tension. Of course, Brandon Marshall is a very large guy, and his friends who were with him were big guys, and these guys were small guys and were probably getting tossed. Okay, so they run to the vehicle, grab a gun, and what happened. They rolled up on side of this limo and emptied the whole clip into it. Not the limo Brandon was in. The limo Darren was in. Javon Walker sitting next to Darren Williams. Darren Williams gets hit in the neck and dies in Javon's lap. A year or so later, Javon is targeted in Vegas. Leaves the club with people he thought he made friends with. They drive him around the corner, pistol whip him, rob him of his watch, his chain, and leave him essentially for dead on the side of the road. This shit happens out and about, and
it's horrible.
And I don't know how you stop it other than being diligent and trying to put yourself in areas where people, law enforcement, but it's at the same time, I mean, you can get caught slipping.
I think the only way to truly stop it is to remove these athletes' social lives, which isn't fair and is not realistic. It's like you can't keep them protected in a bubble and tell them that they can't go out and be normal human beings, because they are normal human beings at the end of the day. And so I think we're heading in a direction in life where like you said, I don't know how you fix this. I don't think there is a solution to this besides, hey, don't leave your house. And even still, people you let into your house, you can't always trust. So it's scary. It's sad. It's horrible. But we definitely had to open the show with that, just to create that conversation and talk about it, because it is a big deal. And it's very scary that these athletes go through this often, way too often.
Real quick comment by Paul Shatter, not Brandon Marshall's fault. Absolutely not Brandon Marshall's fault at all. Brandon Marshall did not pull the trigger. Brandon Marshall did not know this was going to happen. Brandon Marshall was standing his ground when somebody was talking shit to him. And so absolutely not Brandon Marshall's fault. And to me, not Josh Reynolds' fault being out and about. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just one of those things where you got to realize there are some bad people out there. And Denver sometimes feels like it's safe, and it's like this sleepy cow town. And yes, it is a big city, but not so much. But there are elements out there that are incredibly seedy, criminal elements that are looking to take advantage of people and hurt people. And you got to be very careful.
Agreed. Okay, well, let's transition a little bit into the game. If you guys read the title of the show, double-digit favorites for the Denver Broncos. Has not been this way for some time, which means, hey, we're on the right track. Now, listen, I know it's against the Carolina Panthers. My prediction for this game, I'll let you guys kind of jump in and tell me how you feel. I think this is a really good spot for Javonte Williams to continue to build off of what we saw versus the Saints. Javonte Williams getting a taste of what it's like to break a tackle, show us some of that physicality, show us that speed that he was able to get back, having lost weight in the offseason. The Carolina Panthers right now allowing the most rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs at 13 this season. and also one receiving touchdown to a running back at one. So again, running backs have had a heyday and have had a lot of fun against the Carolina Panthers. We saw a really great performance by Javonte Williams against the Saints. Would love to see him build off of that. So I'm hoping we see the run game continuing to grow. I think that it can, especially against the Panthers, which is just getting them more prepared for the tougher opponents they have down the road. So I think run game will look great, as good as it did against the Saints, maybe even better, and hoping that that's something that they can build off of. How do you guys feel about the fact that the Broncos are not only double digits favorites, but taking on a team that's struggling quite a bit in the Carolina Panthers?
Well, you look at it and you touched on it. They are the worst rushing team.
I can definitely hear you now, Brandon. Maybe just turn that a little bit down.
Okay. No, now you went from not being able to hear me.
Can you hear me now? Yes, we got
you.
You
Hear me
buddy.
now. How's this?
You are.
Does this feel good? We'll
That's
do this in real time.
perfect.
Okay, that's perfect. They go from being they're an undermanned Saints team that they ran all over, most rushing yards since 2013. Even though we like Ejiro Evero, and I think he's a really good defensive coordinator, Sean Payton wanted to keep him here. He is certainly not playing with a full deck, as we touched on Wednesday. We also found out Wednesday, and we haven't touched on this. Sean Payton let us know that Javonte Williams, as a little gift to Audric Estime, gave him a football to carry around, similar to high school coaches that don't want their kids fumbling the ball. And if someone on defense can take the ball away from Estime, I don't know what the prize is that Javonte is going to give Estime, but the rookie hasn't played much. And when he has, he's had obviously ball security issues, which I don't think plagued him at Notre Dame when he was rushing for 18 touchdowns last year. And I think he has 30 touchdowns the last 2 years for the Irish. So there should be an opportunity for all three of those backs to eat this week. Jaleel McLaughlin coming out of the backfield, catching the ball as well and finding holes. I'm not saying they're going to have 225 yards because they hadn't had that since 2013, but no one should be surprised if they're at least over that 162, which is what Carolina's been averaging, allowing, and it probably is closer to 200, and maybe it's an even bigger day than that. Plus, you got to factor in Bo Nix and what he's able to do running the ball.
See, when people talk like this, in my mind, I think it's going to be the opposite. There's no way three guys are going to eat. The Panthers know what they're weak at, so they're going to try to stack the box and prevent that from happening. What's going to be presented here is an opportunity for the passing game to get clicking. Sean Payton knows that. This team knows that. They're against an inferior opponent. They know that Bo Nix has to improve in the pocket. This will be the game he tries to do it. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out just slinging it right off the bat, knowing that the defense of the Broncos is going to keep the offense of the Carolina Panthers in check enough for the Broncos to be able to make a few mistakes and still be able to get the win here. Now, that said, you got to be careful overlooking your opponent. You don't want to do something wildly experimental because these are professional football players. You know, the leading rusher on the Panthers has more yards than our leading rusher. The leading touchdown thrower on the Panthers has more touchdowns through the air than ours does. The leading receiver has more yards than ours does. Okay, so keep it in mind. The Panthers offense is kind of comparable to the Broncos offense. It's the defenses that are the big difference here. But I see Bo Nix as really trying to plant his flag as a passer this game. I see this being an opportunity for Lucas Kroll to have a breakout game and get the tight ends involved and throw him the ball early and get him going down the field. I think that, you know, if you want Javonte to eat, like Brandon's saying, you have to give him the ball more than 11, 12, 13 times. And so I don't think splitting reps between all three of these guys is really going to get the best out of any of them. I think you'll see Javonte eating and Jaleel. I don't think this is going to be an Audric Estime game unless they're up by 25, which
well, that's what I was getting to. No, the trap game thing always scares you. It went from 7.5 to 10 because of the Bryce Young news coming in, or Andy Dalton news, and Bryce Young being reinserted. But Dave Logan brought this up this morning when we were chatting on KOA on the morning show, that a quarterback that doesn't have to worry about losing his job because he's already lost it is going to play even freer versus the kid who, we understand he still has to, perform, but holding on to his job, looking over his shoulder at Andy Dalton to start the year after having such a bad rookie year is a different mindset than, you know what, I'm just going to go out and be the Heisman winner and let it rip. And if Deontay Johnson makes plays and Chuba Hubbard makes plays in the running game, I don't really care if they're going to put Andy Dalton back in there. I'm at least going to put my best foot forward so that they have a decision to make when Andy Dalton's finger is healthy. And why not do it against one of the best defenses in football and the best cornerback in football and best cornerback duo in football right now, certainly statistically and the best pass rush. So that you do need to be concerned. I just think I like the Broncos to win this easily, and I understand it's oftentimes we get into that trap as analysts and reporters to say, oh, they're going to roll them. But if the Panthers can find a way to score more than 16 points, I'd be surprised. But I think it's going to be in that like 28 to 30 range for the Broncos and like 10 to 12 at most for the Panthers.
Normally, I would say, that I agree with the idea that a quarterback can come in and play free and sling it around. Bryce Young has not shown that ability at all in his time in the NFL. Last year, he started basically the whole season, and he started a couple games this year, and it just has not. He has not shown the ability to sling the ball around the yard. He cannot. He doesn't have that kind of arm. He doesn't not kind of have that physicality. He has thrown 0 touchdowns this year to 3 interceptions, and he's rushed for. Are you guys ready for this? 26 yards. He is not threatening a defense in any way.
Yeah,
Not through the air, not with his legs. And so I think the Broncos are really going to feast on this dude.
I agree.
That said, you don't underestimate him. Okay.
No.
But I don't believe as an analyst that he poses a significant threat to this defense.
I think the overarching theme, it sounds like even between the three of us, although we're kind of looking at different markets to maybe attack from a betting angle if we were to do that. The overarching theme here is that our offense is in a really great spot to continue to push forward. I think we've seen little nuggets. We've seen strong quarters. We're waiting for that complete 4 quarters where both sides of the ball look really strong. And I think we did see that against the Saints where, finally it felt like for 4 quarters, our offense was able to show up. So I think we all can agree that this is a great spot for the Broncos to just continue to build off of that. Don't take steps backwards offensively. This is your time to kind of lock in on the good things you've done and continue to push forward with those. To your point, Nate, one of the conversations that I think Broncos fans specifically, have been frustrated about is finding a tight end, a reliable tight end. Well, the Carolina Panthers in this spot have allowed so far this season the most touchdowns to opposing tight ends. And if you want specific numbers here for this Carolina Panthers, they're allowing 5 receptions on average per game and 52.3 yards to opposing tight ends. So this is a really great spot, I think, offensively, not for them to be doing science experiments and be experimenting mid-game on things that work and things that don't. Because again, the moment you let your guard down in the NFL, a double-digit dog can come back and win a game. It happens. Crazier things have happened on an NFL Sunday. So there is that chance and that opportunity for the Panthers to, catch them with their pants down, this Broncos team. But I do think this is a good opportunity to just keep pushing forward with the positives of this offense that we've seen in little small doses. Now it's time to put it all together and keep moving forward. So maybe you look at a Lucas Kroll for some overs, because he did get some better looks against the Saints. 3 receptions for 41 yards. That's more than we had seen from him all year. If you want to count the preseason, go for it. I'm not going to. 3 receptions for 41 yards. He was used the most he's ever been used this season. So maybe we continue to see that from him.
Bang the over on Lucas Kroll's catches for sure.
Bang it.
That opening series, they wanted to get him the ball. They want to get him the ball. They want to get the tight ends going. That's for sure. Greg Dulcich is going to be probably inactive again. So this is Lucas Kroll is the guy. That ball that Bo Nix threw between 2 guys, he missed the wide open Lucas Kroll. That would have been a 30-yard gain, and that would have got the momentum going there for Lucas. I want to see what Lucas Kroll can do for a variety of reasons, because this offense needs it, but also you got to figure out if you need a tight end or not. Is this your guy or not? And if he's not, then maybe you think about making a trade for someone. But if he is, then you can kind of bring him along. He's a young, inexperienced guy with it, and he's healthy, and he's got a ton of talent. So let's start throwing him the ball and building something special with this group of young offensive talent. But you just have to throw it to him early and often. And that's really Bo. That's Bo hanging in the pocket and putting it where it needs to be. I mean, this guy's got a very wide catch radius. He can go up and get it. And so it's hard to miss him. And yet he's been missed. And so Bo needs to get more accurate in the first half to get the momentum going with the tight end. because all of Lucas Kroll's catches have been like third or fourth read. He's running a short cross. He's settling over the ball, and you find him late, and he gets 10, 12 yards. That's not what I want from Lucas Kroll. I want to see him running. I want him to catch a ball in stride, moving down the field. And I think everyone in that room knows that that's going to be a plan going forward. It's going to have to be if this offense wants to be better than they are. I think they're 22nd in the league in scoring and 29th in passing offense. That ain't good enough, and Sean Payton knows it. If they want to make the playoffs and make some waves in the playoffs, they have to improve that.
I agree. I think we should build an off-field parlay this week for the Broncos.
With lots of overs.
Same game parlay for off-field for the Broncos game. I say we do it. How do you feel?
I like it.
Okay,
let's get Devon Vele and Troy Franklin involved in that.
I'm not opposed to it. Yeah, we'll build it. Liv, you pay for it, and then just give us our winnings.
Yeah. And then you can buy me that tote bag.
No, I want the tote bag. You guys are supposed to buy it for me. Thank you so much. Well, we don't have lines available. We actually don't have reception lines available for Lucas at this point in time. We only have Sutton, Vele, and Troy Franklin. Would you take Devon Vele over 2.5 receptions?
I would.
Okay.
Might take it on all of them.
Okay,
feels like the overs on
best value right now is with Devon Vele at -108. So let's stick with that.
Okay.
I think an anytime touchdown from Javonte Williams, I would not mind.
Okay.
Or you could just take the over on his rushing yards, which is 62.5.
And you can take the over on his rushing yards.
Correct. You guys like 62.5?
It ain't going to be everybody going over. I mean, it's.
Yeah, well, we don't take unders around here. That's for psychos.
No, unders are for people that don't like, sportsmanship. Like they're unsportsman like bets. You don't want to bet for punts and turnovers. You want and turnover on downs. Right. You want points, right?
It's like,
Chick dig the long ball, as Greg Maddox and Tom Glavine told us. You want to see points. You want to. Even a 30-20 game last night that hits on the over on a crazy safety late, but you want to see overs across the board. It's just fun. And once those touchdowns hit, then you're just tracking the yards. I like Javonte to score, and I like his over. What's Lucas Kroll's yards? I'm sure isn't more than 26.5 without even looking at it. That's probably worth.
His lines are not available. Available.
Well, is betting under kind of like playing craps and betting the don't pass line?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a don't come line?
What the frick is going on?
There's a come line and there's
a come line on
what
the
are
crap
you guys
table.
Saying?
Craps table.
COME, the come line. It has to do with where the point's set at. We'll take you to Vegas or Blackhawk. We're not doing this. No, I haven't.
Now. And honestly, when you guys kept repeating that, and I thought we were going to have to end the program, I was confused as to why this isn't being so inappropriate.
Nate talking about virtual porn. This is not that. This is us talking about crap.
We can go there too if you guys want.
But
when you're watching virtual porn, you bet the cum line.
Lord,
if you don't, you're not doing it right. Or change the channel. Change the virtual.
Freaking A. Okay, so anyway,
or your virtual
forgive
club.
my co-host.
But let me get back to the tight ends. If Lucas Kroll proves to not be the guy, okay, and then they give him the opportunities. There's
tight ends. That's good.
That Joe Lombardi knows. That Joe Lombardi knows, and Donald Parham Jr. who's just out and about. And I haven't really asked what he's done in practice, but maybe I will want him over there today because today's the best day to really get to kind of talk to guys just off to the side in the locker room or whatever, because only Sean Payton's on the podium and then we're in the locker room for about 35 minutes. And so while it's not, the whole team, there's still a handful of guys in there that you can chat up a little bit and find out maybe how Parham has looked, because that's one option to maybe get the passing game going to the tight end. And then if they are going to get into the trade market and you look at teams that could be sellers, I looked at the contract and this popped into my head just the other night. Evan Ingram, most of his money's been paid. He's got a contract through next year. He got $41 million on a 3-year deal before the 23 season. If the Panthers are sellers on Evan Ingram, he's got those Joker kind of traits in the passing game. We know he's not much of an inline blocker, but what would you think about that, Nate, about going out and trading for Evan Ingram or another tight end that might be available? But Evan Ingram's just one that seems like could be had for the right price if the Jaguars continue to struggle.
Jaguars.
I think it's risky trade for a tight end in the middle of the season and think he's going to do a lot for your team unless he's super familiar with your system. He's going to fall right in. Also, Evan Ingram been hurt a lot. I don't think that I don't love Evan Ingram. He seems like he's pretty, he hasn't been very durable. He's been productive in spells, but not so much consistently, especially for the money you're paying him. I really want to see what we got with Lucas Kroll. I really want to give him this season to do that. And I don't really want to go after a trade partner there. I want to let this guy learn. It's not an easy position to learn. And you need reps. And Lucas Kroll also has to be a blocker. He also has to be able to pass protect. And he's big enough to be able to learn these skills. And he's been working hard at it. So you got to let him go out there and try. And I think this is a perfect season to do some of that stuff with. I know that we're 4-3 now. So the idea is let's make the playoffs. Let's make a run at this thing. But what we're really trying to build is for something in the future that's going to be a Super Bowl competitor year in and year out. And so we want guys like Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, and Lucas Kroll and Bo Nix to develop the chemistry now that's going to pay dividends in a couple of years. I do think he has the skill set, Lucas Kroll, physical skill set and the desire and the work ethic and the attitude to be very good.
BK, is that a Frappuccino from McDonald's?
No, it's a caramel frappe.
Oh, God.
Or as my now 18-year-old called it a while back, a frappy. But he doesn't speak.
You
French?
like caramel, don't you?
Or as
I
your
like caramel.
18-year-old called it, Dad, is there something you want to tell me?
That's exactly what he called it as he was getting his mocha frappy.
Freaking A.
Isn't it funny how like high school kids drink like coffee now? Like when I was in high school, we didn't freaking drink coffee.
No, I wanted Gatorade or maybe soda, but mostly water and Gatorade and some lemonade.
And now BK is a caramel frappe addict.
I will throw something at y'all that Liv may be familiar with that you may not, Nate. For some reason in Texas, everything's a Coke. What kind of Coke do you want? They'll ask you. Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb, Mountain Dew.
They don't call it soda. Like
they don't call it sody water. They used to. They don't call it pop or soda pop.
You know how
when you go to college in the Midwest, they call it pop. Hey, can I have a pop?
You know how Mr. Pibb is a knockoff of Dr. Pepper? It's a replica, but it's a bullshit replica because dude didn't even get his degree.
Right. Dr. Pepper spent
Mr.
7 years in school like Johnny Boy, and same with Dr. Brown. Same with Dr. Brown.
He didn't get his degree.
And Dr. Scholl.
Take another sip, BK. Show the people what's going on with that drink.
Again, McDonald's. If you wanna sponsor off field, we're happy to have you or anything at Gorilla Sports. Throwing that out there.
That drink is the size of your forearm. Anyway, let's get back to our parlay. Right now, there are no anytime touchdown scores available in the FanDuel Sportsbook app yet for this game. So right now, our first leg of our parlay is Devon Vele over 2.5 receptions. Fellas, we need 2 more legs. What are they?
I'm going to check the DraftKings app. They're paying me this week and for the rest of the month.
Okay, just anyway.
They're paying me.
Okay,
what are we paying you?
I'm sorry we're about going under this, but I want to go, bless you, I want to go under on Bo's rushing yards. I know it's like 50 or something, and he's going to go under.
No, they're not that high now, are they? I mean, they've been in the 20s.
31 and a half.
Oh, I was told it was 50. Yeah, I might go over on that one.
See, overs are more fun.
Yeah.
Overs are more fun.
Would you take the over on 31 and a half, Nate?
That's also one you don't have to put in the bet.
That's a tricky one because I guarantee you right now, this week has been all about Bo in the pocket, and they really want to develop his pocket awareness, his pocket presence. And so I think they're probably going to, for example, dial back some of the designed runs this week and try to get him to play better in the pocket, dealing the ball. You got to protect this guy. You don't want him running all over the place. And so if I'm a coach, I want you to be careful there. I mean, use this when you need it, but if you don't need it this week, then let's ditch the ball. Let's work on, getting rid of the ball and not taking those hits and not having to dive and run out of bounds and do all this shit. So I would be tempted to go under on that, but I wouldn't bet on it.
I think you just leave it alone. I will point this out. And again, DraftKings is paying me. You can use promo code BK if you haven't signed up yet. But 32.5 there. So this is just us being informative. It's 1 yard better if you're betting the over on FanDuel. If you want to bet the under, you're getting 1 yard more the other way. Same with Javonte. They've got him at 63.5. So DraftKings feeling compelled to go higher on the yardage than FanDuel. But I wanted to ask kind of about the way the game's going to play out. And you said you don't want to underestimate the Panthers or any opponent. And we brought up Audric Estime. Could he end up getting run? See what I did there? Could we end up seeing not only Estime, but as you go through kind of the list of backups, Jarrett Stidham in the fourth quarter, get PS2 off the field, because they can tell us all they want that they want to keep their focus on the Panthers, and I get that. But if the game is in hand, how many starters or which starters do you want to see off the field? Because whether you like it or not, you're headed to Baltimore next week and then you're headed to KC the week after, and you have to be aware of that in the back of your mind, not to overlook the Panthers and get on to Baltimore before the game starts. But once the game's in hand, let's call it midway through the third quarter, and you're up by easily 3 scores and the defense is doing what it does, are you okay with them yanking kind of everybody? And we'll see Stiddy and we'll see everybody, even if it affects our parlays, because the overs may not hit on everything because guys are headed to the bench like Cortland Sutton, like Bo Nix.
Well, if they yank them, they'll definitely win on the come line. I think that, look, it's not out of the question that they would get these guys off the field. I think it's good. I think it's smart. You do want to save them, but only if it's in hand. I mean, not if you're up by 7 points or 8 points. I mean,
yes, if it's in hand, again.
Nathan, timeout until further notice. Timeout.
Right. Yeah, so you want to, yes, but I don't want to be premature with yanking them off the field. I do want them to get a lather going and really be able to, get some good experience out there. Bo Nix is not a guy. Bo Nix is a guy who needs reps, right? And sometimes, like against a bad defense, you can actually get some really valuable reps because you can stay in the pocket, so you're not feeling as much heat as you are with other teams. And so I want to see Bo do things he hasn't been doing yet. I don't want to see him running all over the fucking place against the Panthers. I want to see him dealing in the pocket on time and having this passing game take a step forward. We know this running game's in a good place, at least relatively speaking, compared to the passing game. I want to see this passing game thrive. And I think that it's going to be a big part of their game plan. I think they're going to come out throwing early.
If they do come out throwing early, my whole point is that if it's in hand, even if you haven't maybe thrown for 300 yards or completed 26 passes, despite it being there, but the defense has scored, special teams has set you up, and you're up easily, I'm fine with Bo Nix giving us whatever he gives us, and then staying healthy, because he has been so far, best we can tell, not only healthy, he's been the least sacked quarterback in the NFL. And even when he's run the ball, he hasn't taken any wicked shots yet. He doesn't have the rib issue. I saw where Jaden Daniels missed practice for a third straight day, or wasn't out there, at least in the early part of practice. And you have this showdown of number 1 quarterback, number 1 pick, number 2 pick, Bears and Commanders. And you're not going to see that now until if it were to happen in the playoffs or down the line, because it looks very much like we will not see Jaden Daniels this week, a different Heisman winner, Marcus Mariota, but still, it would have been cool to see Daniels versus Williams. And
he
so
got hurt in the first quarter, and they still put up 40.
Yeah, I like him to win. I actually am picking the Commanders not only cover, but to win that game, because I saw where I think they were 2.5-point dogs at home right now. DQ's a good coach, and they're playing good football. I'm not sold on the Bears, even though they're clearly improved. I'm definitely not sold on their coaches. So I think even with Mariota, with the way they run the ball and the way they've been playing defense, not that we're going down our picks, but I like the Commanders in that one too.
Perfect. Any other picks that we like this weekend? We've still not built our parlay because we keep going other directions. So I'm just going to let.
Is Debo playing this week?
I don't know. I haven't heard. I have not heard. I do not have insider information on that one.
I like the Cowboys. I think Cowboys are getting a couple pieces back. Is Micah Parsons maybe playing? Cowboys are underdogs in San Fran. We know Kyle's a great coach, and they've got really good players, but we know they won't have Ayuk. Kittle's been banged up. No C-Mac yet. And if Debo can't go, I won't be surprised at all if the Cowboys exact a little bit of revenge against a Niners team that's had their number the last couple of years, and the Cowboys go and steal that win. I'm not just saying that because I'm from Dallas. I think that feels like what might happen. I picked the Rams to win last night and to cover, so I feel good about where my picks are. I'm undefeated this week.
Well, the 49ers own.
BK always has to throw in his winning record. He's like, "Yep, I'm on a heater."
Hey, the ball doesn't spike itself, Liv.
That's true. You got to spike it.
But you're right. The Niners have owned them, Nate.
The Niners own the Cowboys. They're in their head like Debo, ironically, from Friday. You've seen that movie. Debo has mind control over the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to go in there and get their asses kicked. And it's not because I'm from that area and grew up a 49er fan at all. It's just unbiased now.
Because Kyle Shanahan is a phenomenal coach, and Mike McCarthy, despite having won Super Bowl, mostly thanks to Aaron Rodgers, he's a terrible coach. He's the worst coach ever won a Super Bowl. He's the worst coach in the NFL, probably. And the more they lose, the quicker he gets fired, I think, although Jerry's pretty stubborn. But it just won't surprise me if the Cowboys find a way to win this game.
But is he the best coach Aaron Rodgers has ever had? Because Aaron Rodgers has only won one, and it was with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur might be a better coach.
Good point,
Matt
Nate.
LaFleur's a better coach. Matt LaFleur's a better coach than Mike McCarthy. Me and you and Liv are all better coaches than Mike McCarthy.
How did he get to be a head coach in the NFL, then?
Nepotism. Not nepotism, just being in the right place at the right time. He got on the staff with Mooch and those guys and Mike Holmgren back in the day and Andy Reid and them and just stayed.
You heard it here first. BK thinks he's a poser.
I just don't think he's a good coach.
Do you think I could coach better? Yeah, my coaching strategy would look very simple. Just do your job.
Well, what is your job? Are you going to explain that?
Ball, end zone.
He goes with the Deion Sanders approach. She's the leader of the program. She's going to empower her coaches to call the plays, and that's part of the problem. Was Mike McCarthy's calling plays again, and he sucks.
All right, so Liv, can I hear what you would say to if you're the coach of the Broncos going into this game? What are you telling them the night before the game at the team meeting?
Rely on your skill set. Don't play insecure football. It never bodes well for you. We've seen little nuggets of this team being great. Now we just got to put it together, which will require discipline, of course, but also sometimes I think the Broncos go into these games and they're like, you can't go into a football game hoping that the other team fails. You just have to go into the football team hoping that you do everything you need to do, because the Panthers may come and they may have, a really great performance offensively, and their defense may get some big stops, whatever. We've seen crazier things happen on an NFL Sunday. Worry less about the opponent and what they're going to do, and worry about putting together the pieces that we've seen this Broncos team in different weeks. Show a little light, show a little excitement, and put it all together.
I'm ready to go run through a wall.
And don't be a loser. Losers are no fun.
No.
Be a winner. It's very simple.
Guys, don't be a loser. Hey, I'm telling you, when y'all go out tomorrow, do not be losers. Go be winners.
That's it. It's very simple. Very simple.
Sometimes it's the simplest messages that really resonate the most.
Go score more points. Just go score more points, and you'll win. Just do it, guys.
Gentlemen, at the end of this game, I want to look up at that scoreboard when it hits double zeros and see more points on our side than theirs. You got me.
Well, listen.
Is that your John Fox?
I think that
Hey.
The assumption here is that the Broncos get a dub, and I think they absolutely should. So it's really about, hey, watch film. This is what I would say to them. Here's your bedtime. Here's your lullaby tonight. Plug in your AirPods and find one good thing you've done from every game this season. And now guess what? Tomorrow you put them together.
Ooh, I love that. Love that.
Oh, Jaden Daniels did say he felt good following practice today. That was
so random. That was like so random.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of giving my game eve speech, and you just brought Jaden Daniels into it for no reason.
I was so pumped up. So pumped up.
It's one of the many tabs that stay open in Brandon's brain.
So,
how many tabs do you have open at any given moment, BK, throughout your day?
Minimum or maximum?
Okay.
Minimum.
Probably 4 or 5.
What are you thinking about right now? And
When
don't
is the
lie.
show going to end? Should I drink this on camera? Should I tell you all about Sophia Smith scoring a goal for the U.S. team yesterday that just popped up on my feed? What's going on with Fulham and Jaden Daniels, and Hassan Reddick's going to play? And that's just what I'm reading, not even what else I'm thinking about.
Wow.
That's a lot of tabs that have.
And I have to book a hotel. There's a lot going on.
Book a hotel where?
Don't worry about it. And I have to book our travel to Baltimore.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Put us in a nice spot, man.
BK just got sassy with Nate about
Don't worry about
being in his business. Don't worry about
Well,
it.
no, I'm just, undisclosed. I'm gonna have undisclosed absence, although I have told Liv Monday and Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I guess.
Yeah, he's ditching us for no real good reason. He just doesn't want to be around us anymore.
That's not the reason, although that now adds to it. But originally that wasn't the reason.
Originally that wasn't it, but we just made it that. Okay, well, any closing thoughts here? I think we can all agree that we believe the Broncos are going to get a win here. We're going to see. Do we think we're going to see their best offensive performance this weekend?
Or just their most points. Either way, we're going to see the most points on the scoreboard.
33.
I mean, I was going to say 33
well.
against the Saints, kind of a lot of points. Can we out?
And 34
can we
against the
outscore that
Raiders.
game?
Yeah. It'd be great to get over 30 for sure. If you put up 40, I mean, the Saints scored 40 something against the Panthers, and so did the Commanders with Marcus Mariota all game. So the opportunities there for the Broncos. I would say this: when you play a bad team, when you play a team that you're better than, it's a matter of coaching and preparing the players to play their best football against an inferior opponent. And there's a lot of psychology there. So Sean Payton is a good coach when it comes to the psychology of different kinds of opponents because he's just done it so long, right? He had 15 years in New Orleans, so he played every.
That's what he said.
Yeah, he's played every type of team and every type of situation. So he's got a message for a game like this. And to me, the message is you talk about all the things they're good at. They are doing well. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, their leading rusher is Chuba or however you want to say it.
Chuba.
He's got 500. He's got over 500 yards rushing. He's top 10 back in the league right now. Deontay Johnson has got over 300 yards receiving. Andy Dalton, blah 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 blah. But you also distill it down to these individual battles, right? Like it's one thing when you say, look at the Panthers, they suck. But when we cut on the film, and I'm a player, and I got a job to do each play, I look at the guy I've got to do that job against, and when I watch him all week and break down his tendencies and stuff like that, I gain more respect for him. I see times that he wins. I see times that he actually had great plays. And so I start to see, okay, I got to bring it on this game. I can't fucking phone this in. I'm against this dude, and this dude is actually a badass, right? So when you break it down to the individual component, it allows guys to see that their job matters and that they got to bring their best. When you pull the lens back and say, this team, they suck, they're last in this, then it's easy to overlook them. You zoom in on each individual player and you present the job in those terms. And I think if you do that, the Broncos are going to roll.
And it's funny that they are playing the Panthers because John Fox, who was full of cliches, one that he would tell us week after week because he coached a bunch of good teams here, obviously with Peyton once they got past his first year with Tebow, and they were good teams, and I guess they got past his first few games with Peyton, they were winning. John Fox would play a shitty team, a 1-6 team, and say, hey, we don't care about their record, we look at the tape. And they look good, and he would give you that every time. But Nate's right. So you have to just take care of your business. And, Sean alluded to, I've played this kind of game 16, 17 times where they are a heavy favorite and the team is undermanned. They kind of played it the other day. We just spent so much time focusing on Sean's return and all of that to not really break down how crappy the Saints roster is currently with the backups they have in so many key spots. But they get it now in back-to-back weeks. None of the fanfare that goes around the return to New Orleans for Sean Payton and others. And it's just, hey, you have to take care of business, step on their neck, get this game over with by halftime, and get on about your business to Baltimore.
Amen. Okay. Well, the Broncos play this Sunday. I will be at the game. I believe both of these fellas will also be at the game. And then we will be doing our post-game live reaction show as per usual, breaking down all things. Yes.
Do we have a Buffs prediction? Buffs, are they going to be bowl eligible by tomorrow night come 10:45, 11:30? I guess 11:30 by the time the game ends.
Who do they play?
In Boulder. Cincinnati Bearcats.
Oh, yeah.
They were about a field goal favorite. And as Coach Prime said on Buffs Primetime last night, they don't beat themselves. So you're going to have to go out there. Travis Hunter's supposed to be good to go. So, we're going to see these Buffs bowl eligible. Feels like we will.
They don't beat themselves unless they bet the come line.
It's a great point. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
That's a simple analysis. Look, Nate's a big college football guy too, Liv. I know you don't pay that much attention to college football the way Nate does. So.
Yeah, so when you understand all the odds from all the different games, you understand kind of what's going to happen. So
exactly.
Okay, well,
Any other closing thoughts from you?
No more
Liv?
beating, yanking, come line. I'm over that. All right. So we're We're done.
Boring weekend for you, I guess. From a betting standpoint, I'm saying.
Well, this has been another episode of Off Field. I'm Liv Moods, joined by Nate Jackson and BK as per usual, and we will be back with a live post-game reaction show following the Broncos Panthers game. Hopefully a big and successful weekend for the Broncos. Thanks for hanging with us, and we will catch you Sunday. Bye.
Later.